So, Brian, you had mentioned a fight you wanted to talk about.
Sure. So today is Sunday, April 18th, and last night there was an event. It was I don't call it a cultural event, but something that had a lot of mainstream appeal, which was the Triller Fight Club's matchup of Ben Askren and Jake Paul. Ben Askren, of course, being an MMA champion and a phenomenal wrestler. Probably definitely a pioneer in our modern era. And then, of course, Jake Paul, an internet personality. I believe it was a minute 59 knockout of Paul over Askren, TKO. Saw some clips online. I didn't watch the whole fight. I didn't watch, admittedly, as much of the different training footage that was leaked, or presented out there. But I just thought it was an interesting to touch upon because we obviously, both the guys walked away with at least $500,000. I think Askren in his post-fight press conference said $1 million. So there's probably other types of, supplemental revenue streams in the fight game that he's able to leverage or receive. And it was interesting. Just wanted to throw that out there.
I watched some of the clips too. They look like is it just a boxing match or was it MMA?
Oh yeah, it was a professional boxing match. It was a sanctioned professional boxing match. Yeah.
Okay.
Only boxing.
I mean, that's kind of a weird choice for Askren. Well, I guess it's not a weird choice when you can get $1 million. I guess I would do it too. But just, for someone whose primary strength is grappling, and maybe you just felt that, I don't know any of the context to this. I don't know if there's just some online beef between the two of them or, just kind of some fake hype to kind of get the promotion going. But it's definitely, clearly, I think the outcome showed that, if you're the world's greatest grappler, if you're putting yourself in a boxing context, that is completely a different thing. And it seemed to show itself. And he's been, even in MMA, because he had that other fight where I think he was like the fastest UFC knockout. I can't remember who he fought.
He received the fastest UFC knockout, or one of them.
Right. Yeah. And the guy, it was, it's kind of a sobering reminder to grapplers, someone at Askren's level, it doesn't mean you have all the pieces of the puzzle, but the guy ran at him and he changed levels, but he like, I can picture in my head, and he kind of opened his hands up and the guy just did a jumping knee right at his head and it was over, his instinct, his grappling instinct, really betrayed him there. And the fact that, you've got to forget that's only one piece of the puzzle, in the big picture. And I think that's something, obviously, Tony's been preaching since day one, for decades now, that, don't lose sight of the larger context of things. So, and I'm sure, Tony, you have thoughts on that.
Well, first, let me preface this by saying I didn't know anything about this fight. I don't even know who these people are, okay? To be frank with you, I never heard of either one of them, all right? And it wasn't until this morning that Brian brought it up, and he said the knockout is on the internet. So I just saw the wild right hand, the haymaker, and then the jab haymaker knockout. Okay, that's it. So I saw the clip. The whole clip was 32 seconds that I saw, but the action was like maybe 10 seconds of it, but it's enough for me to make. I don't need a bigger analysis. I saw enough. Okay, so this is absolutely nothing personal against these guys, because I don't know them. Okay, honestly, I don't. So, couple of things that I've always said: in a street fight, forget the hype. This 90% of all fights end up on the ground. Throw all of that out the window. Okay, because still, the bulk of human beings are going to throw a punch in a street fight. And they're going to throw one similar to what that Jake Paul did, like a looping overhand haymaker, right hand. If they're, traditional, if they're right-handed. You have to prepare for this. And the sad thing is, he didn't throw just one. It wasn't like a lucky punch. He threw two. Okay, he threw one, and then a left, and then another one. The exact same kind of thing. Two things. Askren, I think, okay, so he broke the cardinal rule of everything that I coach. And we were actually filming something about this when you guys were over the house yesterday about head movement. He was there like a robot, moving in and out, just like stiff. No good. Footwork was poor, and just literally no head movement. Okay. You've got to have head movement. You've got to just never let that guy know exactly where you're at, and you've got to learn to keep your hands up. I mean, like up, not down here, unless you're out of range. You want to keep your hands up so you can protect yourself. And if you're going to do any kind of closing move, like closing in, for sure keep them up. That's the worst time to start dropping stuff, okay? And if you're going to throw that hook, you want to bury your face in your forearm if you can, so to speak. So you're just not allowing an opening. Unless you're hooking to the body, and you can cover up. And so that's what I took away from that. Just you're there. He's right there. He's a sitting duck, so to speak, because no angles. He was pretty much right in front of the guy, and he didn't circle away from the guy's power hand. Okay, so when you see your haymaker coming, now let's not talk about Jake Paul now. Let's get him out of the equation. Just anybody who's going to be throwing or leading with a right hand, that's their power hand in this instance, okay? Because he has an orthodox stance. Already, okay, I got to circle away from that because that's, generally you don't lead with it, unless whatever, you're wide open. And that just wasn't done, okay? He just came straight like this, like I said, straight in and boom. So, it's kind of shocking that an MMA guy, champion on top of it all, would have that happen to a guy, forgive me if I'm wrong here, but to a guy who's not a boxer, I'm assuming Jake Paul is not a boxer, who just kind of took it up for this fight. Am I incorrect there?
It's a semi-recent endeavor. This is his third fight in a professional boxing context. Or
okay.
His other two opponents, I don't think were professional boxers. I think one was a former NBA player. So there is a certain amount of curiosity element to these matchups. That's but like I said, he's been legitimately training with different in camps, and
okay.
I haven't been privy to all the clips, but yeah, and obviously a very good athlete. He's been applying himself as well as Askren is too, world class in that endeavor. Question, I guess, related to that, if so, you're speaking really well on proactive measures and the fight overall. Is there a specific defense that you suggest in countering or avoiding that overhand or that haymaker kind of right variation that gets thrown?
Right. So there's several different kind of approaches. Normally with haymakers, like those, okay, what the problem, okay, let's look at the pros of that. Okay, it's a wind-up punch. It's going to probably have a lot of force, if it lands. The negatives, though, is you're going to do one of these numbers and your face is going to be, you're going to be totally vulnerable, okay? Overhand rights are a little bit different, where you're coming over the top. It's hard for me to do this sitting in a chair, but there's a difference between that and, like a windmill kind of strike. And if I reviewed the video again and he didn't throw the windmill type of strike, then I apologize, but let's stay on that windmill type of strike anyhow. So obviously, number one, you don't want to get hit by that. You got two approaches. Step back, which is generally the easiest thing to do, or change your level or spin or step away from it. But for me, it's kind of seeing it coming, try to slip to the outside of that punch. So you have this guy wide open and you throw a good left hook. And that should drop the guy if you know how to throw a good hook. So there are variations. And again, sometimes it's just a matter of blocking. If you just, extend your arm out, on an angle, try to intercept it. You can do that if you want. But what you don't want to do is just what happened here. Just be a sitting duck. You have to move. You have to give that angle to the guy, so, it's going to be an insignificant punch.
So to
Just
speak about the application, it sounds as if generally with a haymaker, or at least even in the case of this fight, the opponent's really committing and coming in, right? And so that actually creates a smaller range of distance that you can execute something like a hook, because you're already, basically they'll already be there. He's meeting you almost halfway. Is that right?
now I'm not suggesting that happened in this fight because I have to watch it again. But yeah, sometimes they'll lean forward, they'll lurch forward. Other times they're just going to throw, that hand, and they're going to be wide open. You let it pass, whichever way you want to do it. If you take just like a slight, I don't want to say lean back, but just like a kind of little step with your feet, not just bending backwards, but like a step back or step to the outside, then you have that wide open counter. It's there. You can catch the punch, okay? You catch it with your rear hand, that right hand coming in, okay? You catch it and counter. Or you do a stop hit with your jab. You try to catch him in the bicep when you see that coming to jam the punch. Those are, all variations of some of the things that you can do. It's hard to sit here and say you do one thing, because you kind of have to assess the attacker's stance and his ability. Whatever you decide to do, don't drop your right hand too. You don't learn to do everything. Like I said, if you catch a punch, your right hand is up here, so you're doing like the windshield wiper thing. So you can easily block his left hand if it's coming. But footwork is so important. That's your mechanism of transportation. Your feet can get you in and out of trouble. And don't stay in the pocket, man. Get out of there. Get out of that zone where you can get hit.